Yes. Premium Takes back in your life on a Friday afternoon. I'm joined by my co-host Adam Costas. What's up, Adam? Hopefully your week has been good. We're gonna throw our fours up like always for our man Jeffrey T. Always looking down and watching us, and he's always here. He's always here with us, watching and
Oh,
having a good
there's not a
time.
day that goes by that don't reference his name
Absolutely.
in some conversation. So
Absolutely,
crazy.
absolutely. Our homie Mac, it's his birthday weekend, so he's out with his family,
Right.
his friends. He's
He ain't gonna be
celebrating.
hanging out with us people.
Absolutely. So we want to wish our homie Mac, our co-partner in crime here on Premium Takes, a happy birthday weekend, and hopefully he'll be back with us
Happy
next week.
birthday,
As
Mac.
Adam is actually having some homies he's gonna be reminiscing with, and some high school
Yes.
friends that he hasn't been with for seen for a while, but not been with.
Well,
Pause.
these are listen. First off, it's a guy's weekend, bros
Very nice.
weekend, if you want to call it. And I've known these guys since I was like 8. So
Love it.
longest standing relationship in terms of friendships I've had. So we, even my mom was like, excited. I was like, I'm going to miss your birthday. She's like, I don't care. You're going to see your friends. So that's what really matters. And you're like, all right, well, that makes sense. It's like, we don't have, it's hard to have friends that long and stay with you that long. So we're trying to keep it alive as long as we're alive, as long as the lights are on.
You gotta value those special kind of friendships, especially friendships that you had for many years. You guys grew up together. As life goes on, we get busy, we split apart. But those friendships is the friendships that when you guys do everybody finally gets back together. It's like yesterday. It's like you guys pick up where you guys last left off.
And we've done it for this annual trip. I don't know how long we've done it.
I love it.
Probably 6-7 years now. I can't remember all the countless little trips we've done in between, so some of them where you're a little inebriated, and some of them where you're a little a little stoned, but that's all right. These things happen. So, but I'm just enjoying life, and I know it's going to be a different host situation next week where Mac's going to be here and with Zion, and so we'll eventually all three of us will get back together. The summertime, we got to let the boys, everybody get their time with friends and R&R, all that stuff. So, but we're here for you. We're going to keep rocking and rolling.
Absolutely. I get a little personal time with Adam this week. I get a little personal time with Matt next week. Now,
sounds inappropriate. That's okay.
What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for being here. I will probably give you a call after the show. Hopefully, it's not too late or sometime tomorrow. I've been super busy today. Not really. Pause. That being said, though, why don't we just get to the topic of the main topic of the show? As you guys seen in the background, I am gonna take some time to cover UFC 303 that was this past weekend. Kind of walk through that in a little bit later on in the show. I am gonna give Adam a chance to kind of preview WWE, being that he is an avid WWE watcher, and big pay-per-view is right around the corner, I believe. So we do want to touch on that just a little bit. We are going to go into a deep dive, just basically an open conversation about the level of quarterback play in the NFL. I know Adam wants to touch a little bit about that as well. It wouldn't be a sports show if you don't at least mention a little bit. And I do want to get Adam's thoughts on the Lakers drafting Bronny James, even though he wasn't really ranked as a second-round pick. He usually would go undrafted if it wasn't for his last name. But just reuniting with his father at the Lakers, we want to touch on that a little bit. And then obviously, we talk about the Giants and forever on. But we were going to start the show off with Giants on Hard Knocks. I know it's not the regular Hard Knocks that we all love watching. It is kind of the off-season, kind of something a little bit different. HBO is really trying to take full advantage of Hard Knocks, having 3 different Hard Knocks now, off-season, in-season, and then the main Hard Knocks. Obviously, it's almost like beating a dead horse, talking about our thoughts on the Giants on this show because of the fact that we talked about them so much in the offseason, but then again, it is something that we are fans of. As you can see, my hat is still representative of the Giants, and it is something that I do want to touch on. It is something that it's fun to see good camera angles and good piece put together on the Giants. And this is only episode 1, and I know it is probably only going to get better. But that being said, what did you? We're gonna probably have a different open discussion about it. But I'll probably start with a question, Adam. Or what did you take out of the most about episode 1? And yeah, that's what you're welcome, Greenie. And what do you? Is it something that you kind of obviously you can have no feelings to it, but did you expect more? Is that what you expected? What was your overall thoughts? Just your overall opening statement on the pilot episode that was episode 1. Go
Well,
right
Greeny,
ahead.
I agree with you, Greeny. Joe Shane, after watching Hard Knocks, is an idiot, and we will talk about it right now.
Let's get it.
But so what I thought was interesting was just it was just interesting because it's Hard Knocks. You get a little interest, but I see more drama with other teams. You know, our team is so cut up and buttoned up. I mean, Joe Shane, for literally 20 minutes of his time, where it felt like it was always referencing fucking peanut butter and jellies. Like, bro, we know. You're a fucking GM now. Tell me about the filet mignon you're eating. I don't care about the fucking Uncrustables or, oh, my wife begged me. Jelly sandwiches. I had them on the road. Who cares? Who gives a shit about that? I don't care about that. How you make our football team better? You know, just dumb shit like that. The things that didn't make sense to me that he would say, that would come out of this man's mouth. You're like, I understand the cameras are there, but God, you're cringeworthy listening to it. We'll get to the big quote right now. The one where he's talking about, man, Patrick Mahomes can't play behind this line. First off, get Patrick Mahomes' name out your motherfucking mouth, okay? Because Patrick Mahomes could play behind this line. What you didn't say to the camera was, man, Tyrod Taylor played just as good, if not better, than the two other quarterbacks that played behind this line. But no, what you said is he has 3 serious neck injuries. So you acknowledge the fact that he had, not neck injury, 3 serious injuries. So you acknowledge the fact that he had injuries. But yet you don't your plan is to go after the offseason to block him, but no plan on the investment. You just talked about history and about running backs falling off a cliff and not paying guys that are injured. Well, guess what? You paid a quarterback that's injured. Oh, and here's another thing that gets on my damn nerves that you said, Joe Shane. Why on earth in year 6 are you still wondering if Daniel Jones is the guy? Why in year 6 is that your message to the fans? We don't know if he's the guy. We got to find out if he's the guy or not, or we have to move on, or is he the guy for the next 10 years? You don't pay somebody on that. You don't do it. If you didn't think he was going to be the man, you don't just pay him the money and then hope that he's the man. They didn't pay Peyton Manning to hope that he was the man. They paid him because he was the man. They didn't pay Drew Brees because they thought he was the man. He was the man. Okay? They didn't pay all some of these guys like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. These guys have produced and done it. So they're paying them on what they know they're going to get out of this guy. You don't even know this guy is going to be your quarterback in the next decade or whatever the case may be, which it never happens anymore because half his career is over. All right? You still don't know that this is going to be your guy. This is the year for him. This is it. Are you kidding me? You're supposed to be an evaluator talent. You know what that tells me? It tells me you don't want to be wrong, and you rather fall on this hill and have him fail than admit that you were wrong about Daniel Jones. That's what it tells me.
That's one thing I wanted to point on too. Let's touch on that subject because it almost like watching the episode, and obviously Joe Shane has a tough job. I wouldn't want his job, but at the end of the day, Adam said about a bunch of things that I do agree on, and I do want to get into it. At the end of the day, your job is to make this team better. Why is it? It almost felt like, and I do like him as a GM. I do want to point that out there. I think he is a good GM. I think once it's all said and done and his time is up in New York, hopefully he would have us having a winning record. Obviously, last year was a debacle. We'll see how this year goes. But that being said, I do want to touch on a few things. It almost seemed like he was kind of holding a grudge towards Barkley because he didn't sign that contract we wanted him to sign when we offered it him the first time. I don't understand how he looks at the stats and he looks at the data and he says all this thing about he's, the fall off for running backs at 27. Just the way that the NFL values running backs is almost disgusting to me. But yet you have a guy that has multiple injuries, almost an injury every single one of his careers, that you guys go and pay $40 million and you have no problem doing that, knowing that this guy is coming off injury-plagued career. And then what does he do? Guess what? He gets fucking injured. So then you're telling me that you're willing to risk it for the biscuit. I mean, like, this is a quarterback that's been injured, coming off of his most dramatizing injury to date. You can tell that even when he's talking about it, how he's probably being sick of going into the same room and getting that mentally and that physically rehab over the whole offseason. And then you can even tell when the guy's massaging his knee that he's not fully 100%. Now, I'm gonna ask this to Giants fans that literally is living in a world where the Giants are going to be able to get the ball to playmakers that we did draft. The offensive line is going to block, and our defense is going to play top 10 lights out defense. And Daniel Jones is going to survive to the fan base that really think this team is going to be strong. The only concern I ask that fan base is, are you guys really committed to Daniel Jones, not in a dome, in New York football in the cold, gonna be fully healthy for 18 games when he never did it in his entire season? So you expect Daniel Jones to do it now? I get the fact that the guy didn't have offensive line. I get the fact that the guy didn't have ribbons. But at the end of the day, the guy is damaged goods. So why don't you bring that up when you go throw money at him? He was injured when you offered him 40 million, but you're gonna, and I'm over it. Obviously it happened, but at the end of the day, it was so like, yeah, Barkley's just this and just that. But when he wasn't, Barkley wasn't this, he wasn't that. Barkley was a playmaker, as dynamic, and came back and showed us that he can play with injured. And obviously he goes and he walks, and now we're sitting here, grabbing someone like maybe like a Drew Lock that is gonna, like, that doesn't make me comfortable as a Giants fan if Daniel Jones goes down. Are we just expecting Drew Lock to have like a Geno Smith to Mayfield type of year? And that has been our concern the whole offseason. And I get it, guys. We're not trying to be haters on the Giants. And I get it. They still need to play the game. But that is the most ultimate concern that we have as Giants fans on this show. Me, Mac, and Adam, is what happens when Daniel Jones goes down. Where is this team then? And that is a full concern. And it even is concerned with him behind this offensive line, as he is. But I'm going to let Adam continue. I know he has a lot of other stuff to say. Sorry to interrupt, Adam.
No, you're good. You made some good points. I want to bring up the Barkley thing in a second, but really quick on Daniel Jones and the Joe Shane comments. It doesn't make sense to me that you don't bring in anybody in the draft or
anybody else
in the long term.
And Sam Portman sitting there in the 6th.
Right. And so the other thing is that just gross negligence at your job, because the guys are injured. But then on the same breath, you're like, oh, I don't want to pay a running back $12 million because running backs are a dime a dozen. Tell the boss that you're going to get a running back. And then the draft pick out your mouth, first free agency out of your mouth is Devin Singletary, who you overpaid, who is 27. So you're contradicting everything that you're saying. The other thing that annoyed me, besides the Daniel Jones comment, because he wants to ride with Daniel Jones. I don't care if you want to ride with Daniel Jones. It was the fact that you told people that in year 6, we still have to figure out who this guy is. That's alarming to me. That's an alarming comment to make after you paid a guy that much money. The other thing is on the running backs. I had a conversation with AK, and he's like, well, does the Baltimore Ravens feel bad that they have Derrick Henry that they're going to pay? Do you think the Eagles feel bad for paying Barkley? Do you think the Colts feel bad for paying Jonathan Taylor? Running backs are, since Christian McCaffrey's come to the league, he and Deebo Samuel kind of have changed the running back in a way, right, in the games, right? So do you think the 49ers go to the playoffs or even the Super Bowl without Christian McCaffrey? Just ask yourself that question. So I understand when he says he doesn't want to see a $40 million quarterback throw to a handoff to a $12 million back. Well, guess what? That's what sometimes winning franchises do. Now, another problem I have with him is that you made it a package deal to bring both Daniel back and Barkley back. Okay, so if now you're getting rid of Barkley, you better hope Daniel Jones comes in and knocks it out of the park for you, because you're going to have major egg on your face. If this team, and I'm telling you right now, my expectations for this team, I already told you 7-10, right? That's how I feel. What you should feel as a Giant fan is Super Bowl or bust for this team. That's what you should feel. Year 3, you got a premier pass rusher. You've got, Kayvon Thibodeau there, a defense you think is going to be stout. You have a great kicker. You have a decent offensive line. You have your quarterback that you paid for. All you lovers out there should be pointing to the NFC Championship game at least. If this team falls short of that, I don't want to hear about what Daniel's done or this, that, and the other thing. No. That's not what it is, right? Because if you're still at that expectation level where you don't know who he is, then I don't know who you are as a GM. I really don't, right?
And that's another. Continue, please go.
Go real quick. The other thing that alarmed me was you said that you needed cornerbacks. You didn't draft one till the third round. Okay, you needed a safety. You drafted one, which is great, but you still didn't put much resources into your defense. Your defense coordinator, who by the way you looked up PFF stats and then said I'm going to hire this guy. Real great hiring process for the camera, even if that was staged for the cameras. Horrible job. Like
it's almost like and I just want to clear things up, and I'm gonna let you continue, Adam. For fans that's maybe looking at us and listening to us, or do listen to us and be like, man, you guys are a bunch of Debbie Downers. The season didn't even begin yet. But the thing is, we're tired of the bullshit as Giants fans. We're tired of this trying to sell us on a team that is going to compete, get our fucking hopes on, and then rip it out from underneath us and offer us a free medium fucking soda. And I'm glad that I don't live in the area, because if I did, I'll probably spend my money on season fucking tickets and get let down year in and year out. So at the end of the day, we're going to bash you. We're going to critique you guys in the fucking off season, because at the end of the day, until you guys put on a proven fucking product that can competitively compete every fucking year, it's almost like bullshit you guys are selling us. We get it. You guys are trying to fucking improve the team. But at the end of the day, we feel this way because it's been horse shit watching the Giants over the last decade. Continue, please.
I understand what they're trying to do, the marketing, right? You're trying to be
absolutely. You got to somewhat still sell
anniversary.
The team.
That's the reason why they did it. 100-year anniversary.
Absolutely.
What the Giants are trying to do is sweep under the rug that they suck. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
Like if you
hold it down for the next 2 to 3 minutes. I gotta step out and do something real quick, but I can still hear you. But I'm gonna let you hold it down. Continue though.
So my point is that I'm not getting swept under the rug. They had the Giants, 100 best, moments or whatever it was with the Super Bowls. That's great. High five, nostalgia brought it welled up my eyes a little bit because of the memories I had. Doesn't change the fact that we still suck. That doesn't change the fact that we still suck. Okay. The reason why people think I'm a Debbie Downer is because I'm giving it to you for real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. All right. Absolutely. You know why the Buffalo Bills get to talk the way they talk? Because they've earned it. You know why those teams over there, like the Bengals and the Ravens, get to talk about Super Bowls? They've earned it. We don't. We talk a big game. We prop up a quarterback who's done nothing, but yet shit on other quarterbacks across the league who've done far more than our quarterback. Yet we do that. Like, to me as a Giant fan, I'm sifting through the bullshit that is the bullshit. And I'm just trying to give you a conversation about what I'm seeing. I'm just being a straight shooter. I'm going to give credit where credit's due, and I'm going to take it away when it doesn't need to be. I'm also giving you a bit of a content creator spin on it too, where I can't be always a homer for the Giants. I have to be an even playing field. Do I get excited sometimes? And it may seem like I like the Panthers or this, that, and other thing. I get excited for players, the whole process. I love the game of football. But the reason why I'm so hard on my team is because they're my team. I have expectation levels of this team they haven't met by any standard of the imagination. Just because you bring out Hard Knocks and want to run out a 100-yard thing doesn't give up the fact that this team had drama from day one of the season ending. From the coaches being fired, who, by the way, still don't like the coach, right? We find out that Mike Kafka stayed here, even though he didn't want to stay here, right? So they paid him more money. Now he ain't got a job. They don't know what the fuck his role is. I mean, we still got all that. Hard Knocks couldn't be coming out at a better time for the New York Football Giants, because all the drama that was this offseason can now be put to bed, and they can lead up to the training camp right into week 5, and then boom, you get your Giant football. So that's what's going to be good about Hard Knocks. What's not going to be good is it's a puff piece. They edited it out. We know what they're doing. But to me right now, the grand scheme of things, this team has no rudder. It's a rudderless team in my eyes. After listening to Joe Shane, if that's what you put on for the cameras, then I feel bad what happens without the cameras. Because to me, he came off looking like a dork. He's grab assing and high fiving at the Senior Bowl, yucking it up, right? They asked, and here's a question that was brought up. They said, "What identity do the Giants have?" And I've been bringing that identity shit up for months, and people looked at me like I had 5 heads. And then it comes up. It comes up right now.
Let's get it.
It comes up right here, right now. What's our identity going to be? Like, bro, I've been asking you what the identity of this team is going to be. You know what the identity of the New York Football Giants was? It was hard-nosed defense. It was running the football. It was smash mouth football. Those are adjectives that you can describe the team at. That was their identity. punch you in the mouth. The Giants have no identity right now. And it doesn't have to be with the fucking offense. The offense, what your identity is you want to be Eric Coryell. Well, you're not going to be Eric Coryell. Listen, I don't care what you say about Daniel Jones, love him or hate him. It's not about him throwing the ball downfield. He doesn't process well. So I don't think you're going to see them throw the ball exceptionally well downfield.
Let's get into that conversation because that's one thing that I did want to make clear. Like, I think the kid has the ability, he can throw the ball in tight windows. Yeah, he can play quarterback. He can play quarterback in the NFL. Thank you, Adam. But the thing is, what knocks me about Daniel Jones is not his physicality. The guy's physical. The guy's tough. It's the mental that holds him back from really producing at the level you need to produce in this league to win a championship. That is the goal, right? Ain't that the goal, Adam, to win championships in this league?
Well, no. Hold on. Okay, you're supposed to be the best at your position and win championships. Because you know why I don't want to hear about – yes, you're right. The goal is to win championships. Mm-hmm. But the more guys like Daniel Jones that win championships, the more that these people who don't understand the quarterback position are going to prop up guys saying, well, see, you won a championship with Daniel Jones. No. You want greatness. I didn't fall in love with the game. I didn't fall in love with Joe Schmo Montana. I fell in love with Joe Montana. I fell in love with fucking no homo, like Peyton Manning and those guys, quarterbacks that ruled. When I was growing up, I had Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Dan Marino, John Elway, big names that were captivating audiences. What do I got now? Right? I mean, the Giants have gone through shitty quarterback history. They've had two great quarterbacks in their history, and those two great quarterbacks have won them Super Bowls. Eli Manning and Phil Simms. Other than that, you've got Scott Bruner. You've got fucking Jeff Hostetler. You have Dave Brown, Ken Graham, Danny Cannell. All those guys. Up until I didn't see a good quarterback, folks, till 1999 when Kerry Collins came in. And he was the first overall pick in 1995. And he got shifted out of Carolina, and he came back. So, yeah, I understand what it takes for this team to be a quarterback. So I'm looking at a guy, and I just see a guy who, yes, he might have time, but he panics after his first read. That's just facts. That's nothing about it. And when you get into these games, when you play the Browns and the Bengals and the Ravens, you're going to have to pass. You look at that game. Mahomes played a good game against the Ravens. When you look at that Ravens game in the playoffs, it wasn't Mahomes-esque type of game. They bottled him up for the most part. Mahomes overcame it because he's that magical, right, and that special of an athlete. But if you watch what they did, he didn't torch them for 40 touchdowns and all that stuff. So now you're going to tell me Daniel Jones is far less the athlete that Mahomes is, who relies on his legs and is now reluctant to run. You're telling me now he's going to elevate? All I'm saying is, getting back to Hard Knocks and to land this plane, is that this team identity is lost because they don't have an identity at quarterback. They don't have a guy they can really, truly hang their hat on and say, this is our guy. When you're sitting there at year 6, still wondering and having question marks by you, those are his words, not mine. Not mine. Your GM, the fearless GM that everyone wants and is saying is doing a good job, right? Didn't get any real defensive players for his defensive coordinator. Is backing a guy who's injury prone, right? Gave him millions of dollars and gave him $1 million not knowing if he was the guy. And then shipped away his best player to say, I don't pay running backs, then went out and overspent for a running back. Like the roster building to me. And then, he said a bunch of practice squad players. Guess what, Joe Shane? That's on you, homeboy. You're the GM. If there are practice squad level players on this team, guess what? That's on you to find good players. So if you're saying, oh, no one can practice behind that line, well, then maybe you should have thought of that. Maybe you shouldn't have got rid of Tyree Phillips halfway through the season, early on in the season. People don't talk about that. These are the things that make or break you as a GM. Not sitting there pandering to the cameras, dropping F-bombs, saying Mahomes can't do this and that, when you clearly know that's a false statement to begin with. We know how good Mahomes is, and he can perform behind the line. We saw him get to the Super Bowl with the line against a vaunted, people don't realize that, vaunted Tampa Bay defense. Okay, if he plays any Joe Schmo defense, he's winning that Super Bowl.
I want to touch on a few things as well. You look at the NFC, and it's only getting stronger.
Really, you're back on the train now. What else is new?
So yeah, if you really think about to respond in a miss, if you really think about it, Wait, what was that? What's this? Yeah, if you really think about it, you look at the NFC, man. We're always um competing in our own division as a whole, and our division itself is getting stronger. There's teams out there at the top of the division, like the San Francisco 49ers, like the Detroit Lions. There's our division, which I just got done saying. There's the up and coming teams that's looking to make progress, like the Falcons, like the Saints. There is even younger teams looking to make progress, like the Chicago Bears. So if you really look at a division in a whole, once Carolina gets things figured out in the next couple of years, there's going to be another emerging young roster. People call me crazy. I said that about the Lions 2 to 3 years ago. Look at the Lions now.
Right. That's all.
You know what I'm saying? So when you really look at it, this whole division, this whole conference is getting better. And at the end of the day, what are we gonna do to compete? You know what I'm saying? Because we bring in Brian Burns, we bring in Malik Neighbors, we do all this stuff, but at the end of the day,
still unproven. I love the talent, but it's still unproven.
Absolutely, it's still unproven. So when we look at this team, and when you take yourself outside of being a Giants fan and you really evaluate this team as an NFL fan, maybe Las Vegas's offensive coach. I mean, like, he looks promising, and I think he's really gonna be a good coach. But guess what, guys? He still needs to coach. This is his first year coaching this line. He still needs to build this line, so it's gonna take time to build this team. Where a lot of Giants fans are putting this team. So when I look and annihilate this team,
that is a decent point.
This team, does have a emerging roster, does have a young roster. Looks like we do have one of the better defensive lines in the league, but we don't have one of the better defense. You know who has a great defense? The Steelers. Go look at who they have a defense. You know who still has an underrated defense that no one's really talking about? The Saints. Look who they got at defense. You know who has another underrated defense that no one's really talking about? The Atlanta Falcons. So when I look at the Giants, and I look at all these Giants fans holding this team so highly, I get it. I understand. You're a Giants fan. You want to see this team be good. But at the end of the day, real recognizes real, and this team hasn't been good. We had maybe 2 good seasons in the last 12.
Well, I'm giving this team 7 wins max. I think that's
absolutely.
And you know why that is? Is because the schedule last year was tough
as fuck,
and we didn't make it through. We didn't play like people want to. Joe Shane wants to paint it like, oh yeah, he didn't play with Waller, Barkley, whatever. Fine. I don't really care, right? I don't really give a shit. Mm-hmm. The point is, you didn't rise to the occasion against those teams. And guess what? We're playing those type of caliber defenses from basically week 3 on. And don't think that
we're playing teams, Adam, that's literally gonna go be trying to compete for a Super Bowl, but we're still trying to fix our line.
Right, exactly.
And we're magically gonna be competing with these teams. That's
no, I'm not saying we.
Not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about Giants fans in general. Like, how are we magically going to be competing with teams that's literally trying to compete for a Super Bowl when we're just trying to fix our fucking O-line to block? Well, we're magically going to be in these games against these top high-level teams. That's my problem with some of these Giants fans.
Let me ask you this. Question.
Continue. Yes.
Do you think the Giants have to play perfect games against everybody to win, or do you think they have the leeway because of the talent that they can overcome?
I think the Giants are going to have to add a little bit of luck to in some of these games.
Okay, so my point is that doesn't happen every year. The ball doesn't always bounce your way. I get it.
Pause, Adam. Look at the Vikings 2 years ago when everything just bounced their way. What happened when they got in the playoffs? They got exposed by a lesser team, which was the Giants.
Exactly. So,
continue.
But they won, and it showed. You're going to win games with defense, but the Giants.
And wait, hold up, real fast. And everybody just, I'm sorry, Giants fans are not going to like this statement, but everybody just wants to talk shit about the Eagles and how they choked. You know how much injuries the Eagles had last year? They got hurt at the right time. The Eagles are. Anybody who dismisses the Eagles is crazy. Anybody who dismisses the Cowboys is crazy, because at the end of the day, yes, they're probably going to choke in the playoffs, but these are still top teams that we have to play 2 times a year. And we're just dismissing them. I don't understand that as Giants fans.
Let me tell you a story. So
yes,
this is part of the fan base and whatnot and what's going on, right? Fan how you want to fan. I don't care. Don't tell me how I'm going to fan. That's what gets on my nerves, okay? Like, for example, I had friends think that I wasn't going to assimilate with Eagle fans because all I wanted to do was fight. I'm over that fighting stage. I don't want to have those confrontations anymore. I used to be that kind of guy and talk shit even when I'm losing. Now I'm more humble. I just want to have a conversation, let it flow. Because at the end of the day, I'm an NFL fan. You're an NFL fan. You can talk shit on game day, but we're not trying. Sometimes we take it too far, right? And I think sometimes when you put that passion and bleed that blue, you don't see certain things because the passion is there, right? And I want to be honest, like, it's not that I don't love the Giants. I told you, I'm critically hard about them because they should be a better franchise than they are. And clearly right now, I don't believe that they are on the level of the Cleveland Browns or even the Pittsburgh Steelers, who their goal is to not lose to the Giants because they're trying to get to the playoffs in the Super Bowl. That's what they're gearing up for. That's why they brought in Russell Wilson. That's why they shored up the defense and made these trades. Those teams are gearing up. Miami, bringing in Odell Beckham Jr. They're trying to be explosive again, right? The Buffalo Bills. And this is going to lead into our second part of the topic in a little bit. Something that really gets on my nerves.
They drafted one of the best safeties in this year's draft.
Right. The Buffalo Bills are always exciting. You have the Jets who've made moves. Those. I'm only talking about the AFC right now, but I'm just giving you the examples, right, of what's happening. The Eagles have done some things. The Ravens have brought in players to help them, right? They're on missions, these teams. We don't know what mission we're on. 1 minute we're talking playoffs, the next minute we're talking rebuild. The next minute we're saying, hey, we're going to be a Super Bowl team. Oh, wait patiently as we rebuild this roster. That's the problem. We don't even know as a fan base and as an organization what the fuck we're doing. And the reason why you end up being mediocre every year is because you're always doing that half-ass win to rebuild type shit instead of just tearing it down when you need to. And that's a sign of a bad team because you always want to be competitive, but you don't ever want to win. It's like I'd rather look good at losing than look bad at winning.
It's almost like a business that is like really just trying to. They don't really care how the business flows. They just want to make their investors money. They don't care that the business is going under, that their business is fucked up, but they're just trying to make their investors money.
Right.
So as long as we have people that can put season ticket holders in the seats, then we're all right. Malik Davis will be that guy that. Exactly what we just got them talking about. Continue.
And let me tell you what Hard Knocks does. It puts a bullseye in your back. Okay, it's going to put a bullseye in your back. It really is. You don't think Brian Flores of the Vikings has a bone to pick with this team after being humiliated by that whole scandal about suing the team and not being chosen and all that stuff? You don't think he has a bone to pick? Now, what do the Giants have to lose? I'm not expecting much out of this year. If they all go on and win the Super Bowl, fine. I'll be happy with it. Do I think they're going to? No. Do I think they're going to beat the teams like the Lions, the Eagles, and the Cowboys? No. Am I more concerned about the Commanders than I normally am? Yes. Do I think the Giants can compete? They're going to be like the Vikings. They can win some games, but do you really trust them against these big-time opponents? And that's where it really comes down to, right? If you look at Daniel's record, he's not great against big-time teams. If he wants to be the quarterback that everybody thinks he is, he's got to go out and beat the Browns. He's got to lead them down the field and score points. He can't just win on a fluky play. You can't just have your defense always win games for you. They're there to help support you.
That's what I want to point out too. Like Daniel gets all this praise, right? And yet he doesn't even have a winning record against teams that's over 500. He doesn't have a winning record against winning teams. He's winning games against losing teams. And at the end of the day, people wonder. People in the NFL community talk shit about Trevor Lawrence when that guy literally had fucking superior numbers than Daniel Jones and has the same amount of playoff wins. So at the end of the day, and had Urban Meyer, one of the worst coaches in NFL history, in his first fucking season as a rookie. So yet, I don't understand how people. I'm not going to throw any names out there. I really don't watch anybody of our community no more because I've been so damn busy, and I apologize to my YouTube family for neglecting uploading YouTube videos. So I'm going to get back on my schedule. But when I do go on Twitter, I do hear people talk about it. It's like even some of my coworkers like Daniel Jones, and I'm trying to pick their head about what do you like about him? And they give the same excuse that everybody else gives. Give the kid a line, give the kid receivers. Okay, but guess what? Right. The kid has a line, the kid has receivers, but at the end of the day, the kid was picked 6th overall.
Exactly. See, I was watching a game on NFL Network, and the quarterback of this team, it was the Philadelphia Eagles 2013 against the New Orleans Saints. The quarterback was Nick Foles. He was drafted in the 3rd round. He ran their offense. They went to the playoffs. They won a couple games, but they eventually moved off on him. Yes, he had some games. He went here, but Nick Foles if you were to tell me that 3rd round pick would win me a Super Bowl, that's a great career for a 3rd round pick. But when you have a guy who's a 6th overall pick, and you're putting stats against,
still trying to figure out what's going to make him good.
Exactly. That's what I don't get. That's why, again, to land the plane of Hard Knocks and jump into the next topic, because Zion brought it up about with Trevor Lawrence, is that's what got me about Hard Knocks the most, is when Joe Schoen laid out that he wanted this $40 million quarterback to do all this stuff, and then at the side of your mouth you go, we still got to find out if he's the guy. Like, are you shitting me? Like, you should be like, this is my dude. I'm going to rock with him. Let's build this team. Away we go, playoffs or bust. I should not hear you then say, well, we have to find out if he's the guy. Like that little sidebar, it's terrible.
It's mind-boggling. And another thing that Hard Knocks really confirmed to me that we all kind of already knew is that John Mara is basically Biden 2.0. Like, literally just leave the building, bro. Like, just I'm sorry, go to your nice house and let Joe Schoen cook. Let the team cook. Because at the end of the day, you being in that building is cancer to the team, man. Like, when you come in and you're like, well, are we gonna draft a running back high? Like, what? We're not in the 1980s no more. Like, it doesn't work like that, bro.
But don't get me started. Don't get me started. Because
I'm sorry.
Just because two idiots.
It was just so long.
They both look like idiots. Okay, I'm sorry. John Mara in there, with his hands in his pocket. I want to get Brendan Barkley, draft running back high, right? And then Joe Schoen sitting over there. Well, you don't get a running back. I'm going to get a running back in the second week of the draft. Second week, Devin Singletary, blah blah blah. We don't have to pay that much money. Zach Morris played on $1.2 million last year. We could do that. Then you end up paying $5 million a year for Devin Singletary, overpaying some, and he's the first guy you sign out the gate. So you're talking about both your butt cheeks too, Joe Schoen. Like, it's a clown. That's what I'm saying. It's a clown show. Then we don't even get anything from Dable. Half the show's about watching the Tennessee defense, watching Barkley highlights, watching this, that, and the other thing. Daniel Jones had like a cameo, which I fast forward through because you guys know how, because you guys already know what I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear from him. I'm done. I'm like, it's a messy divorce. That's what it is. All right, I'm done. Like, go on with your life, bro. I wish you nothing but the best, but you're not the quarterback for my team. I'm waiting for this because to me, I've seen these signs before. I've seen them. I'm not trying to ring alarm bells. I really don't care at the end of the day, because to me, I think he should have been fired last year, even though you don't want to do it with all the turmoil. I don't think you change coordinators, change coaching staffs, change everybody basically out, and then expect to win games that way. That's like, to me, that's not good. You should just change the whole thing where all a team is good. Like Tom Coughlin's done it a couple times to save his job. He did it in 2006. He got rid of his guys. All right, but you knew Tom Coughlin had 11-5 record and went to playoffs back-to-back. So, and they were just like, get rid of Kevin Gilbride, get rid of this person. Fine. They did it, right? And it worked out for them. But that Dable didn't have that. Dable, Tom Coughlin wasn't fighting with Tom Huffnagle and having the same problems, right, that they were having with Dable. So this reminds me, I'm telling you, man, this is eerily similar to 1997 Jim Fossil era, where, Jim Fossil, was brought in. He changed the culture. They waited. They brought a guy in for Daniel Jones. He stunk. They tried Kent Graham. He stunk. They used Danny Cannell. He stunk. Remember, Danny Cannell was like sixth round pick. He played a couple games. I mean, that guy damn near took the Giants to the playoffs, right? Like, so when we talk about playoff wins and accomplishments, this is where I really want to get in. Exactly, Greeny. That's what I'm saying. That's why I call incompetent. You don't pay a man. You don't pay a man. You don't pay that man that much money to then be like, we still hope he's the guy. Then you should have franchised him 2 years in a row, because
that's the reason why franchise tags exist.
Right, exactly. Now, granted, if he fails, you have the out next year, but now you're on the hook for $22 million. Had you not done that and you franchised him twice, you would at least been up for the guaranteed money and off the hook the next year. So to me, it's just bad business to hear him say that. To me, that's like making an investment and you're like, well, that investment went negative, and it was negative when I bought it, but I hope it goes positive.
And we do need to move on from this, but I do want to say
yeah.
this too. It's like if you did that, Berkeley wouldn't have gone to the ops, and it doesn't matter about what the stats say. It doesn't matter
Right.
about what the stats say. There's something called special players, and
Right.
Berkeley was a special player.
Watch him go
And
out and have a
you
beast
let
of a
him
year this
go,
year.
and absolutely he's gonna have a good year because he's running behind a good old line. So Berkeley's gonna go off this year, and Giants fans, probably being Giants fans, will probably wish injury on him. I
But
don't
let's talk about the
understand that,
quarterbacks.
but let's go right ahead and move on. I'm gonna dip real fast. I'll be back in a minute. Adam, I'm gonna have you take it over.
So something's been bothering me that has been brought up with a couple of friends that I've been talking to. We don't know the line of demarcation of what's good anymore. We really don't. There's no middle class of quarterbacks. There are some in the league, a couple here and there, but we lump a lot of guys in together, and there's no line. Everyone, you have to win a championship. You have to win a championship. Well, Dan Marino doesn't have a championship. Yeah, he went to one, but didn't have one. At the end of the day, you open his his trophy case. It has an AFC championship ring in it. That's it. One, collecting dust from 1983. Okay. Do I take away how great he is because of that? Arguably the guy who could probably throw for 80,000 yards in this era. No, Joe Montana played in an era where you got guys getting held left and right on his receiving core, but yet we don't value the quarterback the same way anymore. We're no Mets. I think you're going to like this topic that we're into. You might have just come at the right time. You know, your radar went up. We talking quarterbacks, and he started getting in there. Happy 4th of July to you. Hope you're safe and everything. Don't pull a JPP. Now, get back to what I was saying was a lot of guys are getting paid in the NFL, right? We want to measure greatness, and I'm here to ask the question: can we stop bashing guys and just appreciate who they are? Some of them, because I feel like we always talk about, like, for example, Josh Allen. Oh, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, hands down, bar none. Sure, has he not won? Thank you, no Mets. Has he not won a championship? Yeah. Well, who was in front of him? Patrick Mahomes, right? So I go through a lot of lists. I went through a list of quarterbacks throughout the Super Bowl. And I went through the Super Bowl eras, right, from 2000 basically all the way up. And I was talking about the quarterback.
I'm sorry, Adam. I don't want a quarterback that competes with the top quarterbacks in this league.
Oh yeah, well, I'm just saying.
I don't want him on my team.
But think about what those. But here's the thing, right? Let's talk about a guy like Nick Foles, because we brought him up before, right? He wins the Super Bowl. People are like, oh, I like this guy. They pay him. He goes nowhere with Jacksonville, right? He doesn't do anything in really St. Louis after he gets paid. He only won in the system as a backup quarterback. Now everyone's like, oh, you can always do that. That's an anomaly. The reason you get a franchise guy like a Josh Allen is because the Buffalo Bill fans wake up every morning on Sunday morning knowing they have a fucking chance. That's what they know. They know we don't need it to go perfect to have a fucking chance. We as Giant fans have to have it go perfect for our quarterback to do well. They don't need it to go perfect for them to win the game. That's the difference when you have a great quarterback on your team, is that you don't need everything fucking perfect. Okay? You need everything perfect for Daniel. With a franchise guy, you don't need everything perfect to win, because he's going to, look at what Trevor Lawrence did. Okay? We laugh at him, but he kept plugging away in those playoff games, and he advanced to them. Right? That's why he did that, right? That's why they paid him. Through all the adversity, he did it, right? Josh Allen, all he does is win games. It's not my fault.
Tommy in the building. Happy
Tommy. It's not my fault that he met Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, right? Does that take away his greatness? They're like, oh, well, Lamar Jackson. I'm like, okay, Lamar Jackson's a 2-time MVP. Why am I poo-pooing him because he has a bad playoff game? He's been to one. He's had pretty good playoff games that we can remember. He had one bad one, which, let's be honest, Patrick Mahomes didn't light it up either against that Ravens defense. Okay, and we want to poo-poo these guys because he hasn't won a championship. Why? Why do we always do that? Why can't we? Because when I grew up, John Elway was the man. He didn't win Super Bowls. He went there, but he was the fucking man. Joe Montana was the fucking guy. Okay, you had fucking other dudes when I was growing up. Marino was the fucking. They were like, there was Marino, there was Montana, there's Elway, and then there's the rest of those motherfuckers. Okay, then growing up in the 90s, you had fucking Aikman, you had fucking Young, you had those guys on a different tier. They talked about Troy Aikman as if he was the fucking best thing since sliced bread. That's my problem. Now, did he win games? Is Troy Aikman arguably the best quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys ever? Yes. I like Tony Romo as a talent. I didn't like Romo as a talent. I like what he brought to the team, but Tony Romo was always a pain in my ass. I was watching that guy. But Bregman did what we need to do for that Cowboy team. Do I think he deserves his numbers to be in the Hall of Fame? Not necessarily, but he was up there in passing. Okay, Brett Favre, growing up, was all over the field. These are guys we talked about. This is a guy I emulate in the backyard. You know who I'm not emulating? I'm not emulating Brad Johnson. I'm like, let me drop back and be Brad Johnson. No, I'm emulating, Montana's. I'm emulating, Aikman's, Young's, Favre's. Those are the problems that I have when we lump quarterbacks together. Now, do you need to win at the end of the day when you get paid like that? Yes. But if these teams are putting you in if these quarterbacks are putting you in the playoffs every year, the playoff hunt every year, and overcoming obstacles, even if you look at Lamar Jackson doing that team. You gave him talent, and that team was 15-1. He had no talent, and he carried that team to 11 wins on a bum knee, right? And
that's the thing, and you hit it on the nail. And I'm gonna let you finish because I don't want to interrupt your point.
No, but my point. The thing is this: the reason why I'm so enamored with this situation is because I've had conversations with people who are like, Josh Allen, I don't think he's great. I'm like, what does this guy need to do? Pull a rabbit out of his ass for you to be like, he's good? Like this guy.
Sometimes you just have to, to be honest, not even have conversations with people like that, because at the end of the day, they have their take on these quarterbacks, and it's not going to change. And it's really mind-boggling to me because
let me ask you this question. The guy on the Minnesota Timberwolves, Ant-Man, right?
Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards, absolutely.
Is he not great?
Dog.
Okay, right? He's a young player in the league. We already know he's
absolutely
great. If he doesn't win a championship, but he still plays at that level, is he not great?
Dog. Still a dog.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Kevin Garnett was still a fucking
dog
champion, even though he played on a shitty team. Doesn't take away his greatness because he couldn't win the championship. Okay, look at the circumstance. Okay, Charles Barkley.
Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Right,
he didn't win a championship.
Do you know who he lost to in the Super Bowl? I forget who he lost to, but I think it was the Redskins he lost to in the Super Bowl. Could be wrong. But my point is, that
he absolutely is a deer in headlights.
I think
here's the point too, and I want to touch on a few things you said because I do agree on it. You know what teams do? Teams like the Buffalo Bills, teams like the Baltimore Ravens, their fans can almost likely be cocky. They're kind of like me, like Miami Heat fans. Like, we know we're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the year. We know we're going to have a chance at the finals. We just know that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we got outmatched this year. Everybody did against Boston, so I had nothing to look down at. But we know next year, I know D Rose is probably not going to come here. But if D Rosen wants to come here, absolutely come to Miami with open arms. We'll love to have you. Point being, point taken, and that's another thing we can touch on free agency. Nothing really major happened. But at the end of the day, in NBA free agency, but at the end of the day, when you have quarterbacks like your Josh Allens, like your Lamar Jacksons, it gives you a chance every single Sunday, and it gives you a chance to be in the playoffs consecutively year in and year out. When you have someone like Aaron Rodgers, it gives you a chance to be in the playoffs year in and year out.
Exactly.
When you see these guys operate with nobodies and then get the somebodies, they make different makers. That you can't say that same shit with Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones really didn't do anything.
Well, think about it like this. Let me put some of the quarterbacks in perspective that Daniel Jones might end up being. A Jake Delhomme, okay? A guy like Jake Delhomme was a backup. He had a couple hot years. They went to the Super Bowl. They lost. He flamed out after that. Ryan Fitzpatrick, same thing. Guy they overpaid, thought he was going to be a franchise guy, bounced around team to team, had a couple good flashy seasons, a couple flashy games, right? That if he ends up being a high-end backup, it's not going to be a bad thing. The reason why
not a bad thing at all.
The reason why, you should look at guys and praise guys like Kirk Cousins and praise guys like Dak Prescott, even though they may hate him, is they're a fourth-round pick and they're throwing 4,000 yards a fucking season. We have a sixth overall pick, barely eclipsing 3,200 yards a season, and we're like, oh, that's great. Fuck the guy who came from the third round, who was a lesser talent according to everybody in that draft, right? He was picked in the third and fourth round. These guys are not high-end quarterbacks when you're picking those guys. You guys usually end up being busts. Those guys are outperforming their contracts. And Jake Delhomme probably is way better than Daniel Jones. But my point is he's going to be lumped in with those kind of, also ran quarterback like Dave Brown. Daniel Jones reminds me of a better version of Dave Brown. That's it. He does the same shit.
Here's the thing, Adam, right? We as Giants fans, and me and you, we see that, right? But then, what I don't understand is when we have maybe bad coaches or when we have bad offenses, we blame the coach, we blame the offense, right?
Right.
But then when other teams have worse coaches in Stanley, and we have a kid throwing 5,000 yards in his first season in Justin Herbert, and he finally gets a coach. Watch Justin Herbert rise to the occasion. What happened with Trevor Lawrence rise to the occasion when he kind of got a team underneath him, when he kind of got a coach. Trevor Lawrence has more years with over 20 touchdowns than Daniel Jones has in his career.
Can we talk about that?
So at the end of the day,
stat out there.
There's so much misleading when people talk bad about Trevor Lawrence, when people talk bad about Justin Herbert, because of the fact that Justin Herbert had Stanley as his coach, and he still performed with wide receivers that was more injury plagued than the Giants. And we know how the Giants wide receivers are always injured. And yet we just dismiss the numbers that Justin Herbert puts up with a bad team. We can pull up the Goldilocks. We can pull up the prince that was promised his numbers in Jacksonville, and I could hide his name, and people will respect it. And once you show his name, people's like, "Ew, it's him." Look who just went to Atlanta.
That's me.
That can probably take Atlanta to the promised land. It's Kirk Cousins. But when you hide, when you look
Stop
at his
taking
numbers,
my stuff, man. That's what I said before.
That's what you said before, and that's why I'm echoing it. That is true, because you hide these quarterbacks' names. You just show these people these stats, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's good stats, and you reveal the name. They're like, ew, what? I don't understand that. It's just so. I just really don't understand it.
So let me do it.
That is true.
Let me do an experiment for you, because I've done this before. I told you, if you were to take the name off a quarterback, what would it have, right? And what people don't get is that stat that you threw out there with Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence, that's a misleading stat, because they're playing 48 games. You need to do it season by season. If you were to put Trevor Lawrence's season by season stats up against Daniel Jones, there's no comparison.
There's no comparison.
Now, let me just read you a couple of. And
some would say that Jacksonville had a worse team than the Giants, even though they had a good defense. They had worse offensive teams. You know what I'm saying?
So let me just read you a couple of just overall totals. Right. And again, this is not about bashing Daniel Jones. I could care less about the kid.
It's like, how much that Barkley, real fast to get on Greeny's comment, how much Barkley in that one game actually helped Daniel Jones?
Right.
Yeah, people are totally forgetting that.
So
they act like we don't need him. Exactly.
So I have 4,500 yards.
Running back committee would be okay, but
I have 4,500 yards. So right now I have 3 quarterbacks up. I'm not going to tell you their names. I'm going to give you their best season, or the. Let me give you the season, right?
Okay.
I'll reveal the first one, and then the next 2 I won't reveal. But Kirk Cousins, his season in 20. Let's read Kirk Cousins since 2019, since Daniel Jones entered the league. Okay, Kirk Cousins, who everybody laughs at, went to the Vikings, had 3,600 yards and 26 touchdowns in 2019. In 2020, he had 4,200 yards and 35 touchdowns. In 2021, he had 4,200 yards and 33 touchdowns. In 2022, he had 4,500 yards and 29 touchdowns. Okay, and last year he played 8 games last year?
Double the number that Daniel Jones had when he got his $40 million contract in touchdowns.
And last year, mind you, he had 2,300 yards and 18 touchdowns. He didn't even play the full season yet. Okay, he blew out his Achilles and already had 18 touchdowns. The guy was on pace for 36 touchdowns and 4,600 yards. Okay, so I understand it. We want to talk bad about it. Let me read the next stat to you. This guy, his seasons, right, since 2019, he's had 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns. 1,800 yards, 4,400 yards, 2,800 yards, 4,500 yards is the last. So this last season, this guy, particular quarterback, had 45,000 yards, 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Okay, people want to out this guy at the league. 36 touchdowns. He's done it twice. He's thrown for 30 touchdowns twice in his career already. Twice in his fucking career. Okay, that the other guy who is coming into his own as
teams
well.
Teams would Greeny, but not to that money.
No, nobody's probably signing Daniel Jones at all. If Joe Schoen were smart, he should have been let to test the market. If I was Joe Schoen, who you didn't take up his 5th-year option anyways, so you obviously didn't like him, so you couldn't just said test the market and have cojones. You didn't. You got I don't know. You drank the elixir at 1925 Drive, the DJ elixir, and you fell in full bloom love with the guy. You probably smelled the same rose that Dave Gettleman fucking
did
smelled,
at the Senior Bowl.
And here we are, right? And so this is why we're having this
conversation. Quarterback you mentioned though, was that Ryan Tannehill?
Oh, that was Dak Prescott.
That was Dak Prescott. Got you.
And Tua Tagovailoa.
I was like, that couldn't be Ryan Tannehill. I don't think Ryan Tannehill threw 36 touchdowns.
So you want me to get with the other quarterbacks that are shitty? Okay.
I know Kyle Murray's probably going to be on that list as well.
I'll bring up a couple of those guys in that middle tier, of quarterbacks. Okay, and I'll read you just random stats that they played. And you know what? I'll do last year's stats for Daniel because he played a full season. So we'll compare his highest season total with these gentlemen right here. Okay.
He played 6 games.
he played 6 games. He played, I don't even, how many games did fucking, I don't even know how many games Kirk played. Okay. So Tua Tagovailoa, who people hate, by the way, threw for 4,600 yards and 29 touchdowns. I'm just saying. And his worst season, he had 1,800 yards, but he didn't even start that year. Then the next year, he had 2,600 yards. Like, oh, man, that's a shitty year. We might get rid of him. Then he threw for 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns. And then he jumped up to 4,600 yards. So, Ryan Tannehill, you want to look at his numbers?
So, guess what, Daniel? The question to that is, guess what? People want to say, like, well, he has Tyreek Hill, but guess what? You have Malik Neighbors. We want to see those kind of numbers, please.
Exactly. I want to see you take that jump. Is it hard to ask that?
Shut up, people like me and Adam. Shut us up. We would love to be slapped in the face. Pause, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Listen,
in the face.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
absolutely.
But the point is not trying to be
got
wrong.
outplayed by Tommy DeVito. Greeny?
We're not. This is not a DJ bashing session. This is more of a middle of the road
education
type of quarterback session that we don't appreciate guys who have numbers like Baker Mayfield. I have his numbers up. Okay.
There you go.
Look what he did last. Okay, the year prior, he was an absolute disaster. Okay, but if you were to start him in 2018, he came in 2018. So let's put his numbers up next to season by season. 3,700 yards his first year and 27 touchdowns, more than DJ has ever had. 2019, he's had 22 touchdowns and 3,800 yards. Still, he threw for 21 touchdowns, but Eli Manning also threw for 21 interceptions as well one season. In 2020, he threw for 3,500 yards and 26 touchdowns. Already, his average is over 3,500 yards on average, right? 2021, I think he got banged up a little bit, so he didn't play a full season. He still threw for 3,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. They shipped him off to Carolina, where he was so-so. He had 1,300 yards and 800 yards of the Rams and looked almighty. And then they were like, you know what? Boom, you signed him. The Buccaneers got him. He threw for 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Okay, 4,000 yards. Yes, you could say that he got better with the talent that was around him, but he also that talent didn't fall off. Mike Evans still got 1,000 yards. That offense was scoring points. They were still doing stuff. He still made plays. Do I think he's a great quarterback? No, but what I'm saying is, if you're going to give me a middle of the road quarterback, at least give me a guy that is throwing for over 3,500 yards consistently.
I love this exercise too, because if you really think about it, you're mentioning medium of the pack, middle of the pack, end of the pack quarterbacks here, and Daniel Jones still can't compete with them. So it's almost like magically a rookie from LSU, even though it's LSU type shit, and even though that's wide receiver university, and even though we got seems to have gotten some pieces on the O-line, you're telling me a quarterback that clearly averages less than fucking 20 touchdowns a season and hurt every fucking season is magically gonna jump into a top 10 running back? That is impossible.
Let me put it to you this way, right? If you want to put someone's numbers up against Daniel Jones' numbers, put Geno Smith's numbers. All right, Geno Smith, who started the league in 2013, has 14,000 yards. Okay, Daniel Jones has 12,000 yards. Geno Smith has thrown for 4,000 yards once. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards twice. And he's thrown for over 20 touchdowns in back-to-back years. So that's a middle of the road quarterback. Another guy that we can add to that list, who people don't like, and I appreciate who he is. I don't think he's great, but for what he does,
I want to
Derek
add
Carr.
this real fast. Derek Carr. Okay, I'll let you talk on Derek Carr, and I want to add something to this.
Derek Carr, he's like a guy. If you're going to pay a guy middle of the road, that's what I expect. Like I expect Daniel Jones to get 3,800 yards and 25 touchdowns, bare minimum. I want Baker Mayfield numbers, but if you can't even beat out that, Saints numbers, 3,800 yards and 25 touchdowns. If you can't eclipse that, and we're talking about Derek Carr, who threw 5 consecutive 4,000-yard seasons before he dipped with the Raiders, and he kind of found his way, right? If you can't get those numbers, then you're not good. Like he's a middle of the road quarterback. That's a guy, Derek Carr, that if he gets hot, can win you some playoff games because that's just who he is. That's who he's shown you. Right, if you were to tell me the Giants and Derek Carr right now, I'd give them a better chance of making the playoffs.
Most definitely, but I love that you brought him up because that's a quarterback that you have to build around, and everything has to be good in order to even make the promised land. The thing about it,
go ahead.
I want to answer that real fast.
I think it's just controversy, right? You bring in Justin Fields, you bring in Mac Jones. You're doing a disservice to Daniel Jones in a way where you're going to have nothing but the thing about Drew Lock is if he sucks, everybody already knows he sucks, right? But if he's good,
that's why we did.
Good, right?
That's a good way to answer that, Adam. Not to cut you off, but that's why we didn't go after a $1.9 million Russell Wilson that Denver was basically going to pay for, because that would have caused exactly what Adam just mentioned. And that's the one thing. When I look at a quarterback, I don't give a fuck if you won, bro. I'm not looking at you to win. I get it that my favorite quarterback is Caleb Williams because I'm an SC fan and I'm going to follow his career, and he's going to run forever. He's going to run around. At the end of the day, that is not supposed to be your first job is to run. The only reason
why he even said that.
It's because he had a fucking ranked 116th at times offensive line in college football. How is any quarterback supposed to do it when literally half a second and they're there? So obviously,
he did though.
Have to move.
But that's what. But see, you bring up a great point. Because Caleb Williams in college, regardless of what you want to talk about, in college was under siege. He still made plays. His teams were still in games. He played big games. He made big moments, right? The game that he lost, the big game that we're talking about, it's not that he didn't play badly. His team just got outplayed.
It happens, right?
But did he play a bad game? No. He played a game where they should have won.
They could have won, absolutely. But the reason why I mentioned
the reason why I want to harp on your point so profoundly is because people need to nail that in the head. What an elevator does. An elevator doesn't just get sacked, and USC has a 500 record because they have okay quarterback play. The reason USC was in every game was because their quarterback played like Superman. Okay,
elevated. Look at his receivers that got drafted. Exactly. None in the first 3 rounds. Elevated all of them. Washington, elevated Rice.
That's why. That's what I mean. Now, will he do that in the NFL? I don't know. But if you were to take his career and look at what the chaos he had when Daniel had chaos in college, he didn't perform against Clemson. He looked like dog shit in the rain. But this guy, he gets beat by Notre Dame, but at the same time, he's been in so many big games that you can say, okay, I understand it. Michael Penix Jr., same thing. These guys, people want to look at, the stats or, he's done this in college. Look at the big game performances. Did he not play against Alabama or, Georgia's a NFL club. Okay. They're an NFL ball club. They're basically a borderline NFL club. Did he have some troubles? Yes, he did. But the game before that, because people don't ever want to talk about that, they want to bash Michael Penix in his bad game. But when Daniel Jones comes around, they don't want to bash the bad game. They only want to go for the good game, right? His good game, Michael Penix Jr., he torched. I think it was Texas in the bowl game. He torched their asses. He lit them up for but that's what I'm saying. He elevated those guys. Roma Dunze is probably not a top 10 pick without.
And that's the thing, right? It's like when I look at these quarterbacks, right? I look how they elevated the teams. Then I look at Daniel Jones, and I want to separate the running Daniel Jones from the throwing Daniel Jones. Yeah, when he's running, he's better, right? But the reason why I knock people like, say, Lamar Jackson is because, yes, he can run up and down all over the yard, but when it comes sometimes to his pass accuracy, sometimes it's not fully there. When you look at someone like who's another mobile quarterback, Hurts, when he can run up and down the field all he wants, but when it comes down to the deep ball accuracy, sometimes it's just not there, right? When you look at Daniel Jones, we got to separate these quarterbacks in the way of their running ability and their passing ability. You know, we had quarterbacks like Michael Vick take this league by storm. We had quarterbacks like Cam Newton take this league by storm. We had quarterbacks like Vince Young, who used to move around, takes this league by storm. At the end of the day, yes, Daniel Jones may be high on the list on this side, on his mobile ability, but when it comes down to also his ability to process, his mental ability, the big component, mental is more than half the game. Some would say 80-90% of the game is mental. He's just unable to get it done. And we see that year in and year out. So it doesn't matter if this guy does have an O-line. It doesn't matter if this guy does have wide receivers. And I want him to shock me. I want him to prove me wrong. I want him to prove us wrong. I want to see Daniel Jones go for 40 touchdowns and over 4,000 yards.
So
but it's not going to happen.
I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm not going to be impressed with it because you know, everything had to have been perfect for him to do it. That's the problem. That's my issue that I
not elevating his team.
You know, if you like you talked about Caleb Williams and
Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix on this football team has a better chance of making the playoffs, and that's my God honest statement.
And I'm not disagreeing to a certain extent. What I'm saying is Ben McAdoo had a quote that always stand out to me. He's like, "How does a quarterback do in a muddy pocket?" Right. Mm-hmm. And what that means is the chaos around him when feet are coming down and hands and guys are getting close and the pocket's moving. It's not how do you perform? And if you watch the game in the Super Bowl, the 49ers had a fantastic plan defensively on how to stop Mahomes. But the problem was Mahomes adapted his game because he knew what to do. This is the difference between a lot of running. This is what a lot of running quarterbacks aren't able to do. They aren't able to separate and drop back and pass because they're so good at running. And at the game, at the end of the day, is one in the pocket, and it's a muddy pocket. Meaning, if you want, like I watched the clip a few weeks ago of Eli Manning. A rusher came untouched, unfazed to his face. He sidestepped the guy, reset, threw a touchdown to Odell Beckham Jr. That is pocket awareness. That's pocket presence, and that's what certain quarterbacks don't have.
Because I'm not trying to ride him, but at the end of the day, But at the end of the day, I seen Caleb Williams every single fucking Saturday running for his life with his eyes downfield at multiple receivers and not eyeing down anybody unless they get open.
Well,
Daniel Jones said not able to do that. Continue.
They interviewed Caleb Williams, and they said, "Well, how are you as a runner?" He goes, "My job's not to run." He's like, "I run because I have to, not because I want to." You know, and I said, he's like, "My job is to pass," and that's to me. Yeah, well, that's my issue because everybody wants to talk about having a great O-line. My issue isn't with Daniels, and I don't want to make this a Daniel bashing. I'm trying to compare quarterbacks in the middle of the road and why we always judge them, and basically have an argument and an open discussion. You know, I think it's fair to say that a lot of these quarterbacks get misjudged, but when we talk about these guys, we always poo-poo them no matter what they do. Oh, well, Jalen Hurts stinks because of this. Oh, well, he has A.J. Brown. Oh, well, he has C.D. Lamb. Okay, does C.D. Lamb have 1,700 yards of Daniel Jones? Answer me that question right now. Probably not. I'll put my house that he won't have 1,700 yards with Daniel Jones. But Dak Prescott gets C.D. Lamb 1,700 yards. Some of the best seasons.
Well, when Eli had, I'm sorry, I just came back, but when Eli had like the San Francisco playoff game, bro, when he has like grass and they're holding on to him, and he just, it's beautiful to watch.
Right. Well, the thing about it is you need pocket awareness because the NFL.
You know who has great pocket awareness and great processing ability? The guy on the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy.
Yes, and the point is if you can do something like Eli Manning wasn't a runner. I knew Eli had to go in 2018, 2019 because in 2019 when they drafted the quarterback, I knew it was time because there were lanes for a guy who would scramble, would get yardage. I didn't think you needed a runner, but I just think you needed a guy who could escape a little bit. Eli at 36 wasn't doing that, so I knew it was time. However, what Eli did in his prime or during most of his prime was able to avoid the rush. That thing with Tom Brady. If you watch Tom Brady, He just kind of take a side step, left, side step, right. And then you have arm angles. One of the best guys in the league that you need to watch, that everyone needs to watch, is Matthew Stafford. You want to talk about a guy who throws a
Thank
ball?
You for bringing his name up.
Who throws a ball? People underrate this guy, and this is why he's in the Hall of Fame. Because
that's why he goes to a team and wins a Super Bowl when the team can compete.
He's a great quarterback. He elevated everybody, right? That's what happens. Larry Fitzgerald's a Hall of Fame receiver. He had two good quarterbacks. None of them are legendary. You have Kurt Warner, and then you had Carson Palmer. Everybody else, he was good. He was going to get 1,000 yards. We didn't really win much. You know what I mean? Terrell Owens bounced around. It wasn't until he really was on the Cowboys and the Eagles where they gave him the recognition he deserved, right? He had recognition when he played with Jeff Garcia, but they didn't really do much in the 49ers.
Jeff Garcia,
right? So my point is that when you have a good quarterback and a very good quarterback, a guy that like Dak Prescott flirts with elite status. Like there's times where in games where he's looking like an elite like the best player in the league, literally. And like when people are talking about Daniel Jones beating these like lesser 300-yard opponents, I'm like, great. You know what Eli Manning would have thrown for against the Vikings? 500 yards. He would have broken a playoff record. He would have
broken funny, Adam? You know what's funny? Like it's just gonna continue breaking these records, right? So like, look what happens, right? These young quarterbacks come in, bro, and they just put up numbers, bro. It's been going on since Patrick Mahomes came through, and it's been going on probably a little bit before that. You look at Justin Herbert, 5,000 yards first season. You look what CJ Stroud's able to do. We're probably going to have 2 of the 6 this year quarterbacks impress. You look at next year, they're probably going to put up numbers, but yet we're still holding on. I'm not trying to bash Daniel Jones here, but we're still holding on. And someone like Eli, who literally had no fucking O-line his last 8 years, I'm exaggerated, the last 6 years, still put up better numbers than Daniel Jones. Well, and I would say Eli, continue.
Greeny makes a great point. The pre and post snap reads are some of the things that we don't talk about enough with Daniel Jones. We're too busy. See, the thing is, if you look at the adjectives and the things that you do, I'd rather have a guy like a Derek Carr than a Daniel Jones because I know Derek Carr can flirt with 30 touchdowns. I know that he's going to flirt with 4,000 yards. I know that I'm going to be in games and he can win me games. I don't need everything to be perfect. That's the thing that's what really people don't need to understand. Our offensive line, while it might be better and give up less sacks, let's say they give up 40 sacks as opposed to 80 sacks, which is great. That doesn't mean you have a great O-line if you give up 40 sacks. But the point is, if they give up those 40 sacks, will Daniel Jones be able to overcome some of the things that might come his way? Because we're playing big-time defenses. So they may not get sacks. They may get hurries.
That's a bomb comment. I love that shit, Greeny. Good shit. That's facts, though.
Yes, you're right. You're right, Greeny. We're not necessarily bashing. I don't, because people know my stance with Daniel, and that's kind of how they always look at me. Oh, you just hate Daniel Jones. I'm giving you valid reasons as to why, and bringing up middle quarterback market who are guys who are in his similar wheelhouse, who are either getting paid less or producing more than he has in his entire career. And so my point is, it really stemmed from the Hard Knocks thing, and I wanted to bring it into the conversation that Josh Allen gets bashed because he hasn't won, and I'm like, this is the NFL, right? This isn't the NBA where, I mean, you can have a lot of great players, and one of the points I was bringing up was that No Mets brought up was Patrick Ewing, right? Do people think that he's not a great center? Like, yeah, he's a great center. He bombed the playoffs and the finals, but he's still a great center. That doesn't take it away from who he is. Does Latrell Sprewell get to the Hall of Fame? No, but is he a good player? Yes. If he won a championship, that's a guy that would need to win a championship to justify him being like in the Hall of Fame. Those are the type of players, those secondary fringe good players, like Kirk Cousins. If he wins the Super Bowl and he ends up doing passing, I can see him getting to the Hall of Fame. He may not per se, but like a guy like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, people loved. That guy's going to the Hall of Fame. Okay,
I'm just sick, and the reason why I want to interrupt you, because the reason why I bash him is because I'm just sick of disinformation. People fucking sit up here and spread disinformation because Daniel Jones plays for the fucking Giants, but if he played for another team, they would be outdone with him already. They'll be completely done with it. Right. And they people sit up here, they praise fucking Daniel Jones, and they bash good fucking quarterbacks with shitty coaches like Justin Herbert that literally has played 1 year lesser than Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones is sitting at 12,000 yards in 5 fucking years when Justin Herbert is sitting at 17,000 in 4 fucking years. So it's almost like you're bashing Justin because he can't win a fucking playoff game, and you're highlighting this mediocre bullshit UFL certified.
But how many times has he been to the playoffs?
Jones, it's just disinformation.
How many times has he been to the playoffs?
Disinformation.
I mean, Eli Manning got blown out in his first playoff game, and people.
Daniel Jones is not him. It will never fucking be him. Only fucking shoot 24 touchdowns once in his fucking career. Averages 10 to fucking 15 touchdowns a fucking year, and averages 6 to 10 fucking games. But that's the quarterbacks for the Giants' fucking future. Joe Shane, I don't even get paid that much money, and I see the fucking answer, but yet you still need to evaluate him, and that's what makes me so fucking sick, that these smart fucking people are looking really fucking dumb. It's almost like the fucking Democrats in this country, and I was a Democrat my whole fucking life until they poison us with this fucking bullshit, and I'm not trying to get political, but it is pretty fucking political when you're fucking straight up lying to us in our fucking faces. Okay, you have all this delusional fan base that fucking believes the fucking lie. It's this fucking information.
And I think I'm not going to speak for you, but I think for me at least, I care less right now about Daniel Jones. The problem is there's nothing he can do outside of winning the Super Bowl that'll get me to believe anything. And I don't think he's that guy. Yeah, so to me, I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you. To me, I'm not as connected this season with the Giants as I have been. And the reason I'm not connected with the Giants, like I should be excited for Hard Knocks and all that. I'm just not. You know why? Because I'm taking a stance where I want good football. I don't need to, because when people tell me I need to root for somebody.
Watch the Bengals. I'll watch the Bears.
I'll watch football. I love the Giants. I'll bleed giant blue. It's a choice to watch. It's a choice to watch them. And if they're not doing well, or I don't like a player, it doesn't mean it takes away from my fanhood. All I'm trying to articulate is, and I've seen guys, and I give guys like Dave Brown. They did the same thing with Dave Brown. They drafted Dave Brown in the supplemental draft in 1992. Kept him 6 years. You know why? Because they used a first round pick on him in the supplemental draft. Because they used a first-round pick on him in the supplemental draft. So the next year, they didn't have a first-round pick. And then in 1994, they decided they didn't want to keep Phil Simms, and they got this guy they spent highly resources on, and he's done some good things here, playing in the games here and there. And what does he do in 94? They go out, go 3-0, then they lose 7 straight, and they win 6 in a row. And they're like, oh, we're on our way. And then he was a bomb out. They fired 2 coaches because of him. They brought in Jim Fossil thinking that he could rectify the guy and revive the corpse. Dave Brown looked somewhat competent, blew out his elbow, and that was the end of him. And then we were looking for a quarterback till Kerry Collins. My only point is to end the play, to land the plane with the hard knocks.
That's the best comment of the night. He says DJ's awareness in the pocket is like Joe Biden's awareness in the debate. Facts, bro. Stumbling all over the place.
Oh boy,
that's the best ever.
We're gonna be canceled. I don't really care. But the point is that when the thing that gets me about Joe Shane is when you say those things on Hard Knocks and then you don't bring anybody of substance in. Like, I don't believe in Drew Lock, nor do I believe in Tommy DeVito. I'm more excited to see Drew Lock than Tommy DeVito. But again, the middle of the quarterback market, people tell me we couldn't do anything. You could have had Baker Mayfield for $3.5 million, and he could have done that, and we could have signed Baker Mayfield for a cheaper contract and had a better outcome. The point is that, one, we need to respect the middle of the road. We need to start respecting quarterbacks 6 through 10 more, right? Because if you're a top 10 quarterback, you're doing something right. We need to respect the fact that these guys, it's hard to win in the NFL, and even the great ones, have trouble. But the great ones make great players great. That's why.
Adam, why we look at it like that is because it's like we're spoiled, but we see how easy Tom Brady makes it look. We see how easy Mahomes makes it look. You watch a skateboarder do a dolphin flip, you're like, dude, that looks easy. You go try to do a dolphin flip, you're like, fuck, this is hard. You know what I'm saying? We're so spoiled by these greatness quarterbacks repeating and three-peating and going up multiple Super Bowls and shit, but we really forget how hard it is and how much they actually work to get to that level. It's almost like we take it for granted. You know what I'm saying? But we do understand that there is only certain amount of special spots. Well, Patrick Mahomes, he's special. Continue, Adam.
I think the problem is, and I agree with you to a certain point, is fantasy football has ruined it, Madden has ruined it, and the overall perception has ruined it. We don't make quarterbacks great anymore because the reason is they're one read guys and all this stuff. The art of quarterbacking is becoming less and less because what's happening now is guys can become system guys. You can take a guy, read a half field, like Daniel Jones only reads half the field. He doesn't need to worry about the other half per se, even though guys are running routes, because he's worried about what's in front of him. And when you have that and it's watered down, any Joe Schmo can play quarterback. But what we need to start to acknowledge is that Brock Purdy, everybody hates on Brock. What has that guy done? Like, he's a 7th round pick and he's exceeding all expectations. And all
because everybody hates on him because they judge him because he's in a bomb situation with his team. But at the end of the day, the guy still has to go out there and play fucking football and win fucking games.
Right.
You give Daniel Jones that team, he's not making the Super Bowl. Promise you that.
But the problem is that Brock Purdy, people already have a perception. I think it's more they don't want to be wrong. So it's easier to bash somebody and not take accountability for being wrong than just saying, hey, you know what, Brock Purdy is actually better than we thought. And
honestly, I think people are not realizing, and the real ones do. But I mean, like, Kyle Shanahan is from legacy, man. Like, his father was a legend. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he is football. So when you really think about it, like, the fact that he has Kyle Shanahan is such a plus for his career. And the fact that you have a GM that is really understanding on what the coach needs, it really is a great fit for Tom Brady, for Brock Purdy, because of the fact that, like, it is really Kyle out there on the field, but Brock Purdy just a body. I know that comes off a bit weird. You get what I'm saying, right?
No, but what people are trying to do is they're trying to always emulate what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, what the Trent Dilfers of the world, or the Baltimore Ravens did, Nick Foles of the world, where they're just like, oh, we can prop this guy up and win, and we don't have to worry about it. Because what it is I'll tell you right now, winning is an addiction, is a crack addiction almost. I don't mean to harbor any feelings. Like what I'm saying is like, is you once you get a taste of it, all you want is that one hit. You don't care how you get it. You just want to get it.
Once you're famous, you fall off. You try anything to go back up.
Right, and so and then what happens is you lose sight of the longevity. When you get a great quarterback, like look at the Texans. I'll use them as an example. Right now, their confidence as a fan base is brimming because for the next decade, if this guy pans out, they're going to be fighting for AFC South titles and possibly Super Bowls. That's what they're going to be doing for the next 10 years. The Buffalo Bills have been one of the best franchises since 2019 because their quarterback is that good. This is the reason why I'm not a guy who wants to win one Super Bowl and then not win one for another 10 years.
And hold on to our trophies that we won like over a decade ago, and it's almost like laughing at the ops, right? So what's up, G Nation? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're laughing at the ops, like we're laughing at Buffalo because they went to first Super Bowls and couldn't capture it, right? And we're holding on to our fucking trophy that we won less than a decade ago, but yet Buffalo fans are like fucking chilling because they know they're gonna be in the playoffs year in and year out. You know what I'm saying?
If you think about like Minnesota right now, right? Mm-hmm. They have a team that they're not necessarily confident in with their quarterback situation. Now, Sam Darnold's competent enough to win you games. Do I think that if they win games with Sam Darnold, are they going, oh yeah, he's the future? Absolutely not. These middle of the road guys.
If I was them, honestly, I'm stood in JJ. Sam, take the bench. Get on the fucking bench, Sam. You sit down.
Sit down, motherfucker.
Sit down.
But honestly, there's two philosophies.
You know why I'm studying JJ? I don't think JJ is ready. I just think growing pains. He needs.
You know what? I rather let him learn and then let him.
They're not in a position. They got the Green Bay Packers. They got the Detroit Lions.
Let the season be over.
Chicago Bears. Like go out there and let him fucking. I don't know. Throw him in the fire.
If I was, this is how I would approach it. If I'm Kevin O'Connell, I'd say if we're not.
Because honestly, I just want to give my opinion on this. The Vikings finished last. I have the Bears finishing above the Vikings.
Right.
So go out there and throw him to the fire. But I'll let you cook.
Well, look, there's many different philosophies. I feel sometimes you got to sit. I don't think Sam Darnold is really winning you any games.
Every year. And you know what happens? I played a lot of Madden franchises. You know what happens if you get rid of Daniel Jones? And it's Madden, but also it's a simulation. I played over 42 fucking franchises this last Madden. Daniel Jones never gets picked up by anybody, and if he does, he's a second. But trust me, any other fucking quarterback.
I'm not trying to look. Stop making me laugh.
Like,
stop making me laugh. Look,
the computer really does a good job.
The point is when you have a great quarterback, we take it for granted, right? Like we throw a lot of the good players in the face of these quarterbacks, right? But you look at what Matthew Stafford did. He had Puka Nacua and an injured, banging up Cooper Kupp, and he still ended up having a good offense and making the playoffs because if they don't have Matthew, let's say hypothetically we switch Daniel Jones and Matthew Stafford, they're not making the playoffs. I'm just being honest with you.
No.
I'm not trying to be.
Like I said earlier, Daniel Jones on that San Francisco 49ers, as much as I just gave Kyle Shanahan his respect, San Francisco's not getting past the Lions in that game, not getting past most of the teams, because it's not Daniel's ability. Like we said, it's not his ability. We know he's physical. We know he's tough. We know
he can play.
He's somewhat dependable, but his ability to process and his mental is shot. It's literally shot.
The thing is this: you can't, once you are mentally gone, you can't ever get that back. Okay, you just can't. It's like they call it a shot fighter, where you see, like Sam Darnold said it best: "I'm seeing ghosts." Daniel Jones sometimes sees ghosts, and I'm not again.
Kirk Cousins had to check himself into rehab and get coaching because of that playoff loss.
Him and
mentally takes a toll on you.
Ryan Tannehill did the same shit.
And not to defend Daniel Jones, but think about getting sacked over and over and over again. You start fucking Daniel Jones is out here dreaming of fucking. He's in his sleep getting sacked.
Well, my point is this:
mental, bro.
To land the plane and end the show on these kind of few notes. Yeah, because I think this is a great topic, and we
wrap up right now. And I want to say, I'm gonna let you get the last word, but I apologize, guys. We didn't get into UFC 303. We didn't get to the WWE event. We didn't get into the NBA draft, but I know all those topics is going to be lingering, so we can always get into that later on. This conversation has kind of lasted longer than we predicted, but hopefully that we gave you guys good content tonight. I'm going to let Adam get his last word on. I'm going to say something, and we'll probably end the show, but we want to appreciate all of you guys and thank all of you guys for watching. Go right ahead, Adam.
Well, I'm tired of people throwing people's weapons in their face. Your GM is supposed to build a franchise that wins, right? So if you get good players, like Jamar Chase, am I mad that the Bengals got Jamar Chase? They were drafted there. They had a horrible record, and they ended up getting Jamar Chase. Well, guess what? Do you think Jamar Chase is the same guy without Joe Burrow? He's not.
Definitely not.
The team wasn't the same without Joe Burrow. They could say, well, Jake Browning threw for 300 yards. Well, that happens as the defense are trying to figure you out. But it's at the end. But then also too,
you think about who they have. Like they have two other studs. Maybe not as big as a stud, but they have two other studs that's taken away rippings, that's taken away coverage from Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase can go out there and cook. They literally have two number ones and one 1B. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like. And then you have Joe Burrow that's literally getting sacked 9 fucking times because of a bad O-line and still showing his ability to process fast,
to move the ball down.
Move. Joe Burrow started the season hurt and still played fucking better than some of these quarterbacks around the league. You know what I'm saying?
And we bash him because, he has this guy, he has that guy. The thing is this. You can say all you want about it, but everyone sits there who's playing Madden, you can manipulate the team and the games however you want to play too. Okay, so I'm not going to hate a guy or a team if they bring him in, right? We all want that guy. Everybody wants. If you look at it, do you take away brownie points because Troy Aikman played with Michael Irving? Do you take away brownie points because Steve Young played with Jerry Rice? You know what I mean? Do you take away brownie points because Megatron played with Matthew Stafford or Randall Cunningham with Chris Carter? Like you can't do that. You know what you talked about? You talked about how good those guys
were. We don't take away Michael's greatness because he had players around him.
Right. You know what I mean? Just because these players are great and they have help to win championships, I cannot take away their greatness. Right? Josh Allen is a great player.
Absolutely.
He's probably one of the best quarterbacks of our era right now. The only guy better than him has won 3 Super Bowls, and I can't blame him for being one notch below that guy. Okay? I can't.
That is true.
And last thing, draft fucking status matters. If you get drafted 6th overall, play like a fucking 6th overall pick. That's what you want. Okay, if you were look at Jared Goff, first overall pick, he resurrected his career, right? But he's playing more along the lines of that first overall pick status than the guy that we thought he was. It does matter.
You nailed something on the head that I want to repeat, and it will probably end the show. Is you brought up homie that plays for the Saints. I forget his name already. I apologize. Derek Carr, right? And we both agreed that Derek Carr needs a damn perfect team around him to make the promised land, right?
Right.
And because that kind of is similar with Daniel Jones. And I do want to point this out. I hope, once again, I hope Daniel Jones has a good season. I hope he goes out there and he shows us why that all these people, including our management and our GM, shows us why he is that guy. But I really believe that even if he is that guy, we're not going to make the Super Bowl this year, and he is going to need a whole lot of more help, almost like Derek Carr. He's going to need a perfect team around him in order to make the promised land. And for me, getting drafted at 6, and literally we have to move heaven and earth to get you the fucking perfect team in order for we really can see you is really mind-boggling to me. And that's why I brought up the Democrats earlier, is because it's like, you're clearly lying to us, and we want us to believe the lies. So at the end of the day, I got suckered in over and over and over and over and over again over the past couple of years, and I'm still gonna ride and die Giants. And if you go 0-16, I'm still gonna be a fan of this team. But I know that the Bears with a bad offensive line, Caleb Williams is going to run all over the yard. And yes, he's going to have growing pains, but I know that Chicago Bears football is going to be fun to watch this year. I know that Atlanta Falcons football is going to be fun to watch this year. I think Drake London, I think Kyle Pitts, I think they have maybe breakout years with Kirk Cousins at the helm.
But Kirk Cousins, is a bad quarterback because the Atlanta Falcons already have those players. You know what I mean?
And speaking of Atlanta, they know what it feels like to be in quarterback Joe. So Kirk Cousins gets injured, they're ready to go. Everybody laughed at Detroit for taking Gibbs. Look at Detroit, almost beating the 49ers to representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Nobody's laughing at Detroit now, huh? Detroit's the second best team in our conference. No one's laughing at Detroit now, right? Everybody's wondering why the fuck did they take Penix Jr.? It's a bad pick. Kirk Cousins goes down, Atlanta is boom, insert in. What happens when Daniel Jones goes down? Insert in Drew Lock, and the season's fucking over.
He's not entertaining. That's for sure.
That being said, I'm not wishing on injury, but guess what? It's plain. The guy's been injured, coming off of his biggest injury of his entire career. Never threw over fucking 16 touchdowns since his rookie year. And
where did that injury come from? Where what part of the body?
His knee.
Didn't you just say that he's good at running? So do you think this will hinder him?
Yeah, exactly. And we're supposed to believe that this demigod in Malik Neighbors, which he is going to be a demigod, he is going to put up fucking numbers, is just going to magically turn this. Yeah, Malik Neighbors maybe wins us 2 more games, but at the end of the day, guys, the schedule is super hard. Daniel Jones is still a fucking captain, and at the end of the day, it's looking pretty fucking scary if he goes down. So that's what we're worried about. We want to end the show here. I'm going to let Adam give some shout-outs. What's he got going on in his channel? Anything last words you want to say before we wrap it up this evening?
I just want to say thank you to everyone, people who have given me the idea about this quarterback thing. It's a discussion that comes up, all the time, and it's one that needs to be addressed more and more because I'm here. I'm hashtag middle-class quarterbacks, okay? I'm here for them. I want the Bakers and Mayfields of the world, the Geno Smiths to succeed, and Daniel Jones kick rocks. That's all I have to say about that.
And if JJ does start week 1, the Vikings is a team that we should be able to beat. But what I'm going to be watching on as just kind of like just to watch.
Brings the blitz.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'm definitely watch that. Definitely watching that. But I want to see. I know stats can lie. I get it, guys. He has Addison. He has JJ. But doesn't matter, guys. We have fucking Malik Neighbors now, so that doesn't matter. If JJ has a good game, I want to see that kid succeed. Not because I wanted him to draft him, and not because I want to rub it in the Giants' faces. If the kid has better numbers than Daniel Jones at the end of the season, it's not because of that. I just believe that there's certain quarterbacks in this draft that a lot of people were just overlooking to overlook. And I'm going to repeat my statement that I said earlier because I think it is valid. If Daniel Jones never played on the Giants and played on another team, I don't think Giants fans will hold him to the standards that they hold him to. The fact that he plays on the Giants, it's almost biased towards Daniel Jones because that honestly, it's okay. It is okay to be good in college and not make the NFL. Look at Johnny fucking Manziel. The guy's literally football. He is a true American. He just goes on the field and he just fucking balls out. He doesn't even read the fuck. He doesn't even understand the playbook. And obviously, he didn't make nothing of himself in the NFL. But at the end of the day, that guy was the main reason why Reggie Bush got his fucking trophy back. At the end of the day, he's real well respected in college sports. There's so much athletes that play college sports that don't play in the NFL that is still respected. At the end of the day, Daniel Jones, you got the chance to play in the NFL. You probably will be playing in the NFL as a backup, or hopefully, who knows what happens in the future. But at the end of the day, we know what we're gonna get with him, and it's just gonna be sometimes hard to watch this offense move without. I mean, like Malik Neighbors can literally throw the ball to him for 5 yards and he could run for 50, and that is gonna be fun to watch. And we know we're gonna get that, but we're talking about the hard, gritty fucking games against teams like the Browns, against teams like the Ravens, where you have to be fucking perfect to beat those fucking defenses. We're gonna see the same old Daniel Jones. That being said, we are gonna end the show. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I'm sorry we kind of made it a whole giant show, Hard Knocks, quarterbacks. It's because we haven't talked about it for a really long time. We covered the NBA playoffs. We're branching off into movies and music and stuff like that. Me and Mac will be here live next week for you guys while Adam enjoys his boys' trip. Pause. That being said, though, we want to throw out first up for our homie Jeffrey that's always here with us every stream. I know he would have loved the hot dog eating contest on this 4th of July. He was real big. I used to remember watching his videos.
Some guy drank lemonade in 21 seconds. Crazy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy shit, man. And we always appreciate you guys holding on the chat. We had no Mets in the house. We had Greeny in the house. G Nation stopped in at one point. I believe he's probably still here. We had Miz pulling up. You know, we had Raphael. We had Daniel popping in as always. You know, and that being said, we want to bless you guys. You guys have an amazing evening, amazing weekend, man. Bless up and happy 4th of July weekend, man. God bless America, man. And that being said, we are out. Bless up, guys.
Peace.